Welcome to a very quick RPG in a Box video tutorial. In this video, I want to talk about nested attachments and how to view them in the voxel editor. So in a recent update to RPG in a Box, it's been made possible to view attachments in both the map editor and the voxel editor. But some people have asked questions and struggled with how to actually get those to show. So in this video, that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to demonstrate what things you have to do in order for attached models to show in the voxel editor. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a very quick example where we're going to have three nested attachments. So we're going to have a crow that's attached to a sign, and then the sign is going to be attached to some sort of ground tile that's going to be an object, and then we're going to place all three of those things on the map. Okay, and this will give you an idea of how to see nested attachments. Okay, so what we need to do first of all is we need to go to the asset library and grab the three assets that we're going to use for this. So let me just type crow into here and select the crow and import it. We're then going to need the sign. So let's grab that sign there. In fact, no, let's use this one. And we'll click import. And then the last one we'll do is that one there. Okay, and we'll click import. Now this one's a tile. So what we're going to do first of all, because we're in the tile section, we're going to open this up. And the first thing I'm going to do is rotate it because I want it laying flat, because it's obviously a wall rather than a tile or something like that anyway. So I'm going to repurpose this. So I'm going to select everything, switch to the bottom view, and then rotate it. No, it's obviously not right. So rotate it again. There we go. And then we'll bring it down twice and deselect. And we will save as. We're going to click the Save As button. I'm going to save this as an object because for attachments, you ideally want them to be objects. I think you can attach to tiles, but we'll just use objects. It's simpler. So we'll call this pit. And then we can delete the one we imported. So in our objects, we have the crow is an animal as well, a character. So we're going to open the crow up and we're going to save it as an object called crow. And then we will delete the character crow because we don't need that. So we now have our three objects. We have the crow, the signpost thing we're going to use, and then the pit. Okay, so let's start with the crow. So we want to sort of ideally work top down. So the crow is going to be attached to the signpost, and the signpost is going to be attached to the pit. So what we're going to do is open up the crow first, and we're going to go to the attach point tool, and we'll just attach an attach point, let's say to the bottom of the crow, and we'll just call it crow foot. And then you may not need to do this anymore, but it's good to get into the habit of doing it anyway when we're using nested attachments, is to make the put the attach point at 0, 0, 0 for the offset. So the X, Y, and Z offset, set them to 0, and then save the model. Okay. Then we're going to go to our signpost, and we're going to put an attach point on the very top, and we'll call this crow spot. You can call them whatever you want, but that's what I'm going to call it. This one we're not going to set to 0, 0, 0 because that's where the crow is going to get attached to, so we don't need to change that one. But then we need obviously one for where the signpost is going to be attached. So we're going to put one there called signpost, and we'll again set the offset to 0, 0, 0, and save. And then the last one is to open up the pit, place an attach point, which we'll just call sign X. X marks the spot for the sign. And again, we don't need to set that to 0, 0, 0 because we put that on the sign. So click save, make sure every model is saved. So just to recap where we are at the moment, obviously if you're familiar with attachments, you should know this already. We've got an attachment on the crow that's going to then attach the crow to this attach point here. We've got an attach point on the sign here that's going to attach it to the pit here. Okay, so we're going to now close the pit model, and we're going to preview the crow on this signpost. So what we're going to do is we're going to click this button here, the Configure Attached Objects and Effects button, and we're going to select which attach point on the signpost we want to preview something on. Well, in this case, the crow spot, so we don't need to change this. So we want crow spot. What's the object we want to attach? Well, the crow. And what's the attach point on the crow that we want to attach? Well, there's only one, crow foot. Now, this is the important bit. You have to tick automatically attach this object in game. If we don't tick that and we click OK, although you will see the crow, okay, and we can adjust it in a minute, you'll notice we can't save the model. Now, if I just make an adjustment for a moment to the crow spot attach point, let's just rotate it 10 degrees there. Obviously, we can save it now we've made a change. But if I now close the signboard model and we open it again, the attachment's gone. The crow has gone, okay? So in order to view attach points, nested attach points, you have to set it in the preview, configure preview window here. You have to set it to automatically attach. Make sure that is ticked, okay? Even if you don't want it to be automatically attached in game at the start, when you're previewing it and you're setting things up, you want to have this ticked, okay? So we're going to click OK on that, and then you'll see the crow appear. Obviously the crow is too large, so what we'll do now is we'll go to the crow spot attach point and we'll scale it down a bit to, let's say, 0.3 in all directions. Okay, so there's our small crow on the roof of the sign, and we will now save the sign. Now, you're not going to be able to see it too well from there because the crow is black, but you should be able to see in the thumbnail for the model that we've got open, in this case the signboard, you should be able to see the crow in the screenshot, okay? If I zoom in on the area of the model that has the crow on it, and maybe I update the thumbnail, this again, it's difficult to see because the crow is black, as is the background. But trust me, it's there, okay? So that's a sign that it's working, because you should be able to see your attachments in the thumbnail if it's set to automatically attach in-game, okay? So now we're going to close the signboard, okay? This is important. When you've made changes to models using attachments, you need to close the model, because if you don't, it won't update. We'll talk a little bit more about this in a minute. So what we're going to do, now we've attached the crow to the signboard, we're going to close the signboard, okay? And we will close the crow as well. We don't need the crow anymore. Open, I mean. Now we're going to open the pit model, and we're now going to attach. So click the same button, this button here, the Configure Attached Objects and Effects button, to sign X, the only attachment point we've got on this model. We want to attach now the signboard via the signpost attach point, automatically attached so that we can see it when we save the model. Click OK, and that's going to come in obviously huge. Now what you'll notice straight away is there's no crow. So this is where some people get a bit confused, because they're like, well, hang on a minute, I've attached the crow to this sign. Why isn't the crow there? Isn't the voxel editor now supposed to be able to show attachments upon attachment, attachments of attachments? And the answer is yes. All we have to do first, once I've scaled this down, because obviously it's a bit big. So let's try half the size. Let's just say that size for now, and we'll just move it just a tad in this direction, just to center it a bit. And then we're going to save it, obviously, and then you should see in the pit thumbnail, you should see the signpost. Yeah, that's a clue that it's now saved with viewing the attachments on this model. Okay, now again, you would be able to see the crow in the thumbnail, but it's too high. Okay, the crow's gone off the screen. But all we have to do now is close the pit model and open it again. And you can see the crow. Okay, so all you have to do, if you don't see the attachment of the attachment, is once you've attached the model that needs to be attached to this one, close it and open it again. And basically the way RPG in a Box, the way the voxel editor works, is when you reopen a model, that's when it checks the chain of nested attachments, if you will. It's not when you attach something, it's when you then open the model again with that saved attachment. It's just the way the engine's designed to work. It has to, it checks when you reopen the model, once you refreshed it, it checks what things are attached to what things, etc., etc., etc. So if you don't see your attachment, make sure obviously this is ticked, otherwise it won't work at all. And if it is ticked, make sure you've closed the model and reopened it again since attaching the parent attach point a model. Okay, and then if we go into the map editor, we can now place our model down, clicking the pit obviously, and we can now place that down, and if we zoom in, we can see our crow attached to the roof and the sign is attached to the pit. So that's a very quick video just showing you how to get the voxel editor and the map editor to show the model, the nested attachments. Okay, now obviously if we went back to the roof, let's say we didn't want the crow automatically attached at the start of the game, you would go back into this model and you would open up this setting. You would go to the crow spot, crow foot, untick that, click OK, save the model. It will now be removed from the thumbnail here. Okay, in fact, we need to just update the thumbnail in general. So let's do that. Okay, now I don't know if you can zoom in on thumbnails, so there's no way really of seeing if the crow's there or not. And then if we close both the pit and the sign and reopen the pit model, now you just see the sign. Okay, and likewise if we go to the map editor, you can see the crow's goal. So once you've set things up how you want and you've tested that they look good in the map editor, all you then have to do is just untick that box. It will keep things where they're positioned, but now it just won't show them when you start the game if that's not what, if having them start on the thing is not what you want them to do. Okay, but set them up first with it set to automatically attach, so you can preview them in the voxel editor and in the map editor, and then when everything's set up, you can untick that box for the things that shouldn't be there at the start. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. So the most important thing to understand is that you have to tick, wrong thing. You have to tick this box here for things that you want to see in the thumbnail and things in the things you want to see in the voxel editor and in the map editor. And also make sure once you've done that, you close and reopen all the models just so it can update that those things should be attached and be shown in both the map editor and the voxel editor. Okay, again, follow along when I set the crow and the sign and the pit up if you want to see step by step that process again. But that should be pretty much it. Let's do one more quick example. Let's just quickly go to this crate. Let's add an attach point to it. So let's just quickly add an attach point here called crate. Save it. Let's go to a crow. We'll leave that actually. Let's attach this sword, let's say, to the crate. So let's put a crow spot here. And then all we have to do is go to our crate, preview on the crate attach point, the sword, via, let's just say, right hand, automatically attach. There's the sword. We'll just quickly bring the model up. Quickly rotate it to get the rotation right. That's the one. And we'll quickly move it back a bit. Okay, and we'll save that. And then we'll close all the models. And now we'll open the sword model. In fact, well, it doesn't matter. We'll add the crow to the attach point. Automatically attach. We need to scale this down to 0.3. Oops, I'm scaling the wrong one. Make sure this is crow. 0.3. 0.3. 0.3. Now, because we've rotated the sword, we'll need to rotate the crow, I think. So let's do 90 degrees on there. We'll see if that's right or not. Save that. Close the sword. Reopen the crate. And the crow is the wrong way round. So we'll quickly close the crate. Reopen the sword. Rotate the crow. Minus 90. So it's the other way. Save it. Close the sword. Reopen the crate. And there we go. Yeah. Obviously you would make adjustments to the position of the crow and everything. But that's how you get nested things to show. Make sure that this is ticked and just make sure you're closing and reopening the models so that it refreshes your attachments. Okay, if you're not seeing something that's supposed to be attached to something else that's attached to something else, just make sure you close everything and then reopen the parent, in this case the crate, the one that's got the sword attached to it and the crow attached to the sword. Reopen the primary model and it should then show all of the attachments in the chain of attachments. And then again, you can place the primary model down on the map editor and it should show all the attachments, the sword which is attached to the crate and the crow which is attached to the sword. Okay, so very quick, simple video. I hope it made sense. So hopefully now, if you've been struggling with getting the attachments to show in the voxel editor, this should help you get that working so you can see your attachments. So with that said, that'll wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next tutorial.